Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, sir. How you doing this Thursday evening?
I don't know. It's been a quick week.
Yeah.
It feels also that it's been a very long week.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, and we're looking at a 2.5-hour movie, like a 2-hour and 45-minute movie. I don't know how long Eternals is.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the long movies because 9 times out of 10 they're actually meant to be long, rather than the 2-hour movie where you're like, oh, that's Act 1, so then this is gonna happen and then this is gonna happen. But still, when we spent that year without going to the movie theater.
Well, yeah.
There was this lovely thing we could do. It was called pause.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's true. I know. I think. Let's see. I've seen 2 movies in the theater. I think since things been back, and they're both have been MCU films, Black Widow, and then Shang-Chi. And yeah, I was just like, yeah, I got to get my movie legs back under me, because. Yeah, you're right. You whenever you're getting used to watching things on demand and on your own schedule, you can, as I learned last week with Dune, for example, maybe whenever I started feeling my eyes drifting, I should you can pause it and then start again the next day when you're fresh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know we were talking before we got started as far as when to go see Eternals, and I'm still. As I was telling you before, I'm looking forward to it because it sounds like visually and everything is a great film, but then also, I should follow your track of cutting out all the noise as far as other opinions and reviews and stuff, because now it is starting to seep into my enthusiasm for it, and and seeing the Rotten Tomatoes number, it's I think it was 53% or something like that at this point. And I'm just sort of like, oh man, I'm getting tainted by all this crap that's out there.
Or maybe you are following my example and you're lowering your expectations, and then you're going to be impressed by the movie more so if you had gone in with a higher level of enthusiasm.
I will take that. I will. That will be where I will go with this. Yes. Thank you. That's why I always enjoy talking to you, because you can talk me back from that tree. Thank you.
Oh man, I bet they're gonna show the Morbius trailer prior to that movie.
Yeah.
The Morbius trailer. I did not forget about this movie. I remember watching the original trailer, and I remember it so well that I was watching the second trailer and I was thinking to myself, not much has changed, just a bit of sequencing differences. I hate the CGI in this trailer. I despise the CGI, and it feels like Venom and Carnage level CGI, which go figure.
Yeah, well, that's Sony.
I also find it hilarious when they're proud of Venom, so they say from the studio that brought you Venom. Venom made money, but still, it's not like it's this great film.
Right.
So it looks fine. I don't know about this movie because it's from the studio that brought us Venom, and I still have yet to see either Venom movies.
Yeah. I hear you. I mean, there's a reason why they're dropping it in January.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So I will freely admit my knowledge base of Morbius as a character really comes from the 1990s version of Spider-Man, and I remember that cartoon very well, and I really enjoyed some of the storylines with Peter and Michael, and of course I think Felicia was always and Hardy was always involved, because I think Morbius in those shows, was either they were dating or he was very fascinated by her. So, but you know, I haven't read a single Morbius. I've seen Mobius, thinking Loki, Morbius comics, and yeah. So it'll probably be one that if I do watch, it'll probably be on video. I mean, I think it's been what it was supposed to come out last year, or it was in 2019. When was this? Or was it supposed to come out last summer? I think, and they got bumped obviously due to the pandemic. But you know, it's just kind of there, and I know there people are saying, well, you know, Sony's building the Sinister Six and all that kind of stuff, but especially in anticipation of Spider-Man, you know, coming back.
They may be building it, but I don't feel as though I have to watch these movies in order to watch Sinister Six and appreciate Sinister Six.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so it's one of those things. I'll probably catch it on video, but I mean, the trailer itself, I was like, okay, interesting. But it didn't move me to like, you know, if it came straight to video, I'll be or streaming, I'll be fine with it, honestly.
All right, got it.
Yep.
I just love how you spent like 10 minutes on Morbius and you didn't really care about it at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, I guess it had an emotional response, and that was it.
Sure. There's not really a good segue, so we'll just talk about some other trailers that dropped this week. The Book of Boba Fett trailer dropped.
Yeah.
I watched majority of it. I'm just not in the right headspace right now, so I kind of just checked out of it and was like, okay, because I know I'm going to watch the show. I don't. I mean, and we all know this, and I say this all the time. Trailers give away so much of the story. Yeah. And this trailer probably gave away a few episodes. At least the first episode. It looks good. It looks fine. It reminds me a lot of Rogue One, not in terms of story. I just want to be clear, not in terms of story, but it reminds me of Rogue One in terms of just the set design and everything. And if I'm not mistaken, I remember when the Mandalorian trailer dropped, that also was someone's the initial point of comparison, that for some reason those trailers, that feeling, all vibes together. So
yeah. Well, I think fair point. I think obviously the time period as such it is a lot closer to Rogue One as far as time periods in the Star Wars universe. Obviously, there's been a lot of Mafia and Godfather comparisons to it, especially the line, basically a paraphrase of take on I have an offer you can't refuse. So, so it's, those are the kind of vibes I got from it. And also, like, as you mentioned, Mandalorian, same kind of Western vibes too. So I felt like it was definitely a trailer, and I guess the theme of this show is kind of seems to will be a mix of genres, like the Mandalorian has been.
Yeah,
and so
it's just gonna have to work really hard to separate itself from the Mandalorian.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's where I guess really getting into and I guess digging deeper into Jabba the Hutt's bounty hunter realm. But again, I think we'll get more about the syndicate and the criminal underworld of the in the post Empire galaxy at this point, because it is set after Return of the Jedi, and so there will be some lawlessness in these Outer Rim systems. So but you are right, it will have some work to do to separate itself from the Mandalorian.
Yeah, because I was listening to someone revisit Force Awakens, and so this franchise, as in the past, tend to repeat stories.
Yeah.
And not in a good way.
Yeah.
Not to make them better. Did you watch the Atlanta trailer?
I did. So, I mean, it was a very short. It was about a minute and a half long, and it really sort of it was just a lot of scenes of Europe because at the end of I didn't realize this. This show has been off the air since like 2018. That's how long it's been.
Wow.
Yeah. And so whenever season 2 ended, Paperboy and everyone were about to go on a European tour. So it picks up third season picks up with they're in Europe, and it just basically cuts to Paperboy, who actually is in Eternals. The actor who plays Paperboy is one of the lead. Yeah. He's just sitting in a hotel room, and there's the staff doing some work, and it's this very creepy, eerie vibe. It's sort of like one of the episodes in I think in season 2 of Atlanta. But yeah, and that was it. And then and it just says 2022, and so I love this. This is a great show. I'm glad it's coming back. I did hear that they filmed seasons 3 and 4 together. So, it's finally good to see that. Yes, just like so many things we joke about, like, oh yeah, it's coming. It really is coming. So I am looking forward to it. It was good. It was it did what it needed to do as far as start to build the hype, and I'm sure we'll get more as we get closer to the actual release date.
Yeah, definitely. And apparently Stephen Amell did what he needed to do to get a second season of Heels on Starz that has been renewed. Eventually, Will and I will cave and finally purchase Starz so we can watch the show.
Yeah.
I don't know when with all of the other content happening,
for sure.
But eventually, maybe during a slow time, whenever that does happen, and 2021 and 2022 catch up with what should have happened in 2020.
Exactly.
In other news, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon joined Cillian Murphy and Emily Blunt in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer biopic movie. With Cillian Murphy, it never ceases to amaze me when he's in a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why Tenet didn't work as well as it could have, because it was missing a Cillian Murphy cameo.
Yeah, I think that would have been great if you would have had him, John David Washington, and Robert Pattinson. That was the missing element. You're correct.
Yeah. He's just at an end credit scene, sitting in a cafe.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson's character in the corner. I don't know. So that's all good. Good to see Robert Downey Jr. coming out there. Interesting. I wonder what character he's going to play. Christopher Nolan, I like him. I watch all of his stuff. So I'm going to see this movie no matter what.
Yeah.
Unless it sucks, and then I won't. But
it won't suck. I mean, even though Tenet had its slow moments, you can't say it was a bad movie. It just things about it. But I know we're both Nolan fans, so I added this one to the rundown, and also just think it'll be. It just sounds like a very interesting story, talking about the person who did obviously build the atomic bomb and the Manhattan Project, and I know Emily Blunt's playing Oppenheimer's wife, and I think Downey Jr. and Matt Damon are members of the team respectively. I think Robert Downey might be playing one of the generals or something who was commissioned in the project, and then I think Matt Damon is one of the scientists as part of the team. So. I think it's going to be a pretty awesome movie.
Awesome. And then last but not least, Gael Garcia Bernal is set to star in Marvel's Werewolf-Focused Disney Plus Halloween special for next year. All right.
Yep. Yeah. So this was it's like the Werewolf by Night comic. There was 2 different characters, Jack Russell. This was something that I saw rumored earlier this year, and then they made this casting announcement today. So it should be this will be something that will come next year, I believe.
All right, sounds good. Talk about Stargirl season 2 finale. The eclipse happened. A lot of things. Well, not a lot of things happened, but
it did what a season finale should do. It wrapped up everything in the first 30 minutes, and then they spent the next 15 or so epilogue setting things up for season 3.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. It was a perfectly fine season finale. I don't have any major complaints. I think it's weird how they used what is her name? Green Lantern's daughter.
Jeannie.
I think it's strange how they used her, because all last week, she wasn't feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had the premonitions about what was going to happen. And then in this episode, did she ever face off against Eclipso, or did I miss that?
She was part of the ensemble Avengers wrap up.
The Light Force. Got it.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But who is the character at the very end?
That was Mr. Bones.
Okay, who's Mr. Bones?
So Mr. Bones they're definitely going into some deep cuts here with in the DC realm. He was multiple things, but one of the projects he was a part of was Helix, and that's why they brought in the Helix Institute earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and so in the comics, Helix were 6 mutated kids who were that was their group. But in Stargirl, the Helix Institute is where I guess they're doing the similar type of experiments on meta kids. And so I guess obviously Jeannie and her brother, and I'm blanking on the name now, but not Parallax, because that was Hal Jordan.
Doesn't matter.
But Obsidian. So she's Jade, and the Alan Scott's other kid is Obsidian. Is that she traced them to the Helix Institute. So right. I think so that's where this is all coming together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that part, because it made a lot of what happened with Jeannie this season make sense. The inclusion. Man, though, that whole ending title card thing, Stargirl.
Yeah.
Really, I thought summer school was bad, but you made summer school pay off in the long run. So yeah. I can imagine that you'll make Frenemies work, because that whole epilogue was about these frenemies coming together. I mean, you have this great moment between Yolanda and Sydney, and where Sydney suddenly wants to be a part of the JSA.
Yeah.
For a season.
I think I remember reading somewhere, I think Jeff Johns and the creative team for Stargirl, I think they have a 5-year plan that they can get to 5. Yeah. So they obviously if they're lucky enough to get to that point, that'll be season 4. You're right.
Well, I'm glad that they have a 5-year plan. I think we've talked about this before, where it's clear when the writers aren't thinking long term with a lot of these. Sometimes they get stuck so much in just crafting a season that the larger story isn't there isn't a larger story.
Right.
And then that's where you fall into repeating the same things that you did the previous season or stuff, because you don't see the arc fully of that character, because overall, multiple seasons of a show, the character needs to grow, needs to change, and there needs to be like that ending moment where the whole journey was worth it. And not the journey of one season, but journey of all the seasons together and combined. So I'm glad to hear that they have a 5-year plan.
Yeah. I think it was in the context of an article I was reading about whether or not season 4, will it stay or will it go? And yeah, I think that's where I saw it there. Saw that they had that plan, but and you're right to your point about the growth of the characters. We saw that with Courtney this year. I mean, this season I thought really did. They did it. They didn't they resolved the issues about Starman being her father. We got past that season 1. Okay, good. Season 2, we're going to focus on how showing Courtney that the world is really in shades of gray and it's not always black and white. And I liked the way in this finale of the way Eclipso finally got her to say I hate you, and torturing Pat of all people to and seeing what was going on there. He wore her down throughout the season, and then finally the final breaking point was that one, and then obviously they had the inventive use of smart use of not in the beginning credits, saying Joel McHale is going to be in the finale, and then Starman shows up. I mean, that was whenever that moment when Barbara and Jade had the guest show up at the door, looking back on it, maybe it was Sylvester, but then again, I was like, no, but Barbara doesn't know Sylvester, right? Unless so I think that was more likely the Shade that showed up whenever she was like, oh, you're back, because then later went and saved Beth and the rest of the crew. Yeah,
no, I think how everything came together worked really well. It must have taken Joel, did he walk there or something? Where because I mean, they showed him in episode 3, episode 2 this season. They teased him so early on, and then all of a sudden, in the nick of time, he shows up. I might issue with that, but the payoff was there because you definitely weren't thinking in your mind, okay, when is Starman coming? Mm-hmm. You were completely lost in the story, so it overall worked out. The Shade, I like the Shade as a character.
Yeah.
But I don't like it when they kill these characters only for them to come back unexpectedly. Yeah, and they did that twice in this episode. They did that with Shade, and then they alluded to that with Grundy.
Yeah, but here's the thing with Grundy. So I think they're opening up a door because Rick was all obviously, he had the Luke Skywalker no moment. But I think with the way they set that up for the 3rd season, I think, Grundy's a zombie. So when he does come back, I think all the things that the trust and everything that he had gotten from Rick this season is not going to be there. So, So I think he's going to be back on the bad side, especially if somehow Cindy and her reformation is really convinced she's going to be a JSA member, or maybe Cindy just becomes an anti-hero.
Yeah, they're gonna do the anti-hero thing, but then it's gonna come to head in season 5. Well, and then you also have Cameron brewing in the background where he gets. I mean, I feel like Cameron knows though, because didn't he blow out his birthday candles one time with ice breath? So
I believe so. Yeah,
I thought they were gonna more lift a picture of Courtney and be like, "She killed your dad."
Yeah,
I thought they were gonna go that route.
yeah. That I will say that was kind of random. I felt, but then just all things but they had to wrapping up all the things from the season. But that one. As far as editing choices and story choices, that one kind of landed kind of funny for me from this episode. If I had to quibble with something about the finale, because I was just kind of like, well, that came out of left field. He's been kind of on the shelf, and then your grandparents show up and say, we got something to tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
I also noticed that in season 1, finale, Beth's goggles broke, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So she thought she had lost Chuck forever. I find it very interesting that now we have Rick, who is Power Man, but he's without his hourglass.
Yeah, that's a good
and
point.
His super strength. And so I foresee, I'm like, didn't he already do this card with one of these characters? Why are we doing this again? Where somehow they're going to figure out how to put it back together next season.
Yeah.
But so that's overall my one complaint is that I think I had overall this season is good. The villain was really good so far. Both seasons the villains have been really good.
Yeah.
But I did notice that early on, especially, there wasn't enough good use of storyline A, B, and C to really make the whole JSA team feel a part of the show. And I felt that more this season than I did last season. I felt last season they did a lot better job incorporating all the characters. Now, granted, my favorite episode is the episode with Yolanda.
Yeah.
Will is obviously a Courtney stan. I am not. I don't know if it'll take me until season 5 to finally get on board with Courtney, but I still have my issues with her as a character. I don't know. There's something about it where I'm still like, I don't think she has learned her lesson. I really don't. She's way too optimistic about things.
Well, I think that was. I think that's by design. I think when Sylvester was basically having her look within to defeat Eclipso, I think that overly sunny, optimistic Courtney is at its core who she is, and I think, and you're right. I mean, some that can either make her may rub you the wrong way as far as it's like, okay, does everybody have to be so daggone perfect? But they did show some more of her flaws this season. But
oh well, I know she's a flawed character.
Yeah.
Barry Allen is a flawed character too. He gets on my nerves.
Yeah. At least they don't. At least they don't try. Yeah, at least they don't try to talk their ways out of. Speech doesn't solve everything with the villain of the week. But that's the other great thing about this show too is they don't have the monster of the week kind of thing. It was like, okay, we have our we have our little universe here, and we will do like season 1 the good parts of season 1 of the Flash, where you had the Reverse Flash being an overarching villain, but we don't bring in these one-offs each week. And if they do bring the one-offs, as far as the old JSA members, they are there to serve a larger purpose of the story, not just to be a filler. And I think that's part of the function of just having a 13 episode season.
Yeah, no, I think a 13 episode season works really well here. And so far that's been part of Stargirl's charm. Shorter season, more story, great villains, semi-good heroes. No. But it's all about the villain. I mean, let's move over into Batwoman, because with Batwoman this season, and we touched a little bit about this last week, where they are getting into that trope of villain of the week.
Yep.
This episode, were you invested? Because I was like, what are we doing right now?
It's funny. So as I was watching this episode, I thought about our conversation from last week about falling into that trap. And I was like, damn it, they're doing it again.
Yep.
And then at the second half of the episode, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. They're moving on a little bit with it. It's still, it was like, okay, we got, we're sticking with Mr. Freeze's weapon and whatnot, but
it was boring. Such a boring episode. There was all this talk. There
was a lot of exposition for sure.
There was a lot of telegraphing of things. This thing with Sophie and Ryan. Okay, I've been on board with his ship. Will's been in denial, but I just now suddenly am like, wow, they moved really, really fast. Like, what happened?
Yeah, they did. I was thinking that same thing too. I was like, damn, they're just throwing everything out there. They're like, all right, if we're not guaranteed a season 4, we're going to make sure we get all this stuff out this year, because they did not mess around with driving that home, the ship home.
Well, yeah, they're moving fast on a lot of things. I mean, it kind of took me back last episode, or like these past few episodes, with Ryan being the head of Wayne Enterprise, and now the classic, oh, now my company is in jeopardy too, and so you're gonna have the fighting, the politics of the company, and especially since it's her biological mother who's going after it, and it's just okay. And then here's why I really wasn't engaged in this episode, because about halfway through, I'm just sitting here, I'm doing my thing, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, what are the chances that Bruce Wayne is Ryan's father? Are they going to do that? Are they going to do that? Because let's just call a spade or a jet, okay? Yeah. Jada really is pissed off about Wayne Enterprise. She wants that company. She's mad that Ryan is the head of that company. We know she had an affair.
Yep.
Huh. I mean, what woman in Gotham hasn't had an affair with Bruce Wayne? I mean, come on, he's a playboy. So I'm just saying, I think the chances are 50-50.
As far as theories spiraling,
about it.
Hey, as far as theory spiraling, that's not a bad theory. I mean, that would
didn't have that thought.
I thought I did not. I as far as like what her motivations were, I thought it was just unadulterated greed and just wanting to have ultimate power and control of her biggest competitor.
No.
But I like her theory better.
So let's not forget, this showrunner used to be a showrunner and writer on Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. She likes to complicate things, and I just have a suspicion that I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do that. That may be far-fetched. They might pull in a different hero to be the long-lost father of Ryan. But
it's going to be Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, now that we put it out there, it's only logical that it just suddenly, randomly be Bruce Wayne. But yeah, I don't know. This felt like such a filler episode for me, where they were just they were doing stuff and moving people. They moved Mary into a park, and nobody cares. Is she gonna become Poison Ivy?
No.
Okay, good.
No, she's not gonna become Poison Ivy. But I saw what they were trying to do there with Mary, and but they were like so focused on being heroes and stuff that forget it. Mary, we'll get to you. Just sit over there, figure out everything, and we'll deal with you later as far as what happened to you. I think I hear what you're saying, and like I said, the first half of the episode, I was just like, okay, I feel like watching it repeat a little bit. And I think part of it is too, like, for example, the Jada Jet getting access to Bruce's finances, and it reminds me of what we saw in The Dark Knight, the movie, where the guy who worked in Wayne Enterprises figured out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just it. I'm starting to all the story beats that we've seen, and we talked about this with Titans as well, that we've seen in other Bat adventures, either the Nolan films or other areas in the Bat family, all those beats are starting to get repeated throughout all these Bat family projects, whether it's Titans, whether it's Batwoman, and so I think what you're articulating here is that things are getting a little stale because we've seen variations of these story beats in other Bat family movies or shows.
Yeah, it's you, like when we were talking about Stargirl, and you told me about Dr. Bones and the deep cuts, right? Mm-hmm. So Stargirl is building this universe and this world, and they started with some names that we were familiar with, and now they're getting into these other names that we're not familiar with. And this season, especially with Batwoman, we're getting names, and we got Freeze, we got Poison Ivy going on. It's becoming too familiar, you know?
Yeah.
You want the rogue gallery is large, so you want to pull from some of the more obscure ones. That's something that early on the Flash did really well. And Arrow ended not too long ago, and for this 8 seasons it was on, it was always talked about as being okay, so we're not going to get Batman on the small screen, but we got Arrow, and Oliver Queen is very similar to him, Bruce Wayne. And so a lot of these story beats with the company being the head of the company, and then that second life sort of thing, I'm like, I just watched 8 seasons of this.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's why, for me, that's why I've been enjoying Stargirl, and also even Superman and Lois, because what was so genius about Superman and Lois, to this point of a familiar character, is they took, instead of repeating the same old stories over and over again, they took it to the next place that hasn't been explored much as far as live action of Superman and Lois having a family.
Yeah. And one of the best episodes of the season was the episode with Lois talking about the miscarriage. Yep. Exactly.
So those are the things, and I know when we get to Doom Patrol, I think that was what drew me to it as well, because it introduced me to, as far as DC Marvel, it introduced me to characters that I didn't know much about prior to the show, and it was telling new and different stories outside of the familiar characters that we've had before. And at Batwoman, yes, I mean, I think I think if there's a problem with this season to date is getting too tied into the Bat family as far as the familiar Bat characters.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get us wrong. The first few episodes we were really on board. It's just that we're now episode 5, and it's starting to feel a bit repetitious, and it's like, okay, so where are we going with this? What is that overall plan? We got a lot of things going on with Jada, but is that it? I don't know why. That just feels a bit empty.
Yeah, well, last week I was like, we were talking about last week's episode. It was like, okay, it felt like, really, you could have condensed it in 25, a half-hour show, because there wasn't that much new things happening. And I think the Jada stuff, I think what they're trying to do is to give us some of that, something new. And I think the Brian and Marquise her brother teaming up to take down Jada. Hopefully, we'll still get, hopefully we will get, once Poison Ivy is introduced, we'll get that the full, we'll stick with her as far as the villain, and we won't have these Monsters of the Week episodes anymore.
Well, you're being
hey, one can hope.
No, I think you're forgetting about season 1 and season 2. They do this. And again, the showrunner from Vampire Diaries always had a Monster of the Week. It's just classic.
Yeah.
So I'm not that optimistic that we're going to get away from villain of the week. I just want to know what the overall story is and what the direction is for the overall arc of this season.
Yeah.
I was going to say something else, but I honestly, another reason why this whole corporate aspect isn't working out with me is because Succession is back, and Succession is amazing, and they do corporate sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I
episode killed me. I was like, damn.
Yeah. I haven't watched this week's episode yet, but I did catch up. So,
Ooh, I really liked this last week's episode. The first two were good, but there's some moments in this week's episode where I'm like, damn, okay. They're back.
All right, I'll have to do another 3-4 kind of thing this week.
Yeah, definitely. But to move on to Doom Patrol, because you've already brought it up, I have an unfortunate announcement. I really can't speak a whole lot to Doom Patrol because I was rushing trying to watch it before we recorded. And I also, HBO Max, I love the content on that streaming service. I hate the platform itself because it takes forever to load episodes. And then I have yet to watch something that for some reason doesn't glitch out on me, and then I have to log completely out and back in. So I didn't watch the last 15 minutes of it. So
okay. Well, let's talk about what you have watched. And
but no, go ahead and spoil it for me. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, so basically the spoiler. Well, obviously, everybody who's listened to us has probably watched the episode. So we get the penultimate cliffhanger, where as you saw throughout the episode, of course, Kay is back, doesn't care about the others, and she's on the surface. And then halfway through the episode, with our heroes being who they are, and everybody being very in their heads and in their own selfish little world that they
right.
That so she's in the underground, and she's running through there, and she screams out, and the scream is it just wrecks everything in the underground. But then, of course, Kay, the individual on the bus, as they are driving to Florida to rescue Cliff from being kidnapped by Madame Rouge and the Brain and Mola, because they want his body. The bus also they have a wreck, and so basically the bus wrecks, and it fades to black at that point. So to set up for the finale for next week. And of course, Cliff and Madame Rouge are hoisted away from the retirement community, and Mola is taking the he was going to push Madame Rouge off the ledge because she was knocked unconscious, and she had Cliff's brain in a bottle as well. So that's what happened at the end of the episode.
Okay, so I was following, and then next thing I know, I don't really, but I'll watch it myself.
As we were talking about before we started recording, and I know you had the technical difficulties. I'm back on board with this show because I know earlier this season, started off, I was like, okay, good, and then for about episodes 3 to about 7, I was kind of I just that specialness, and we've talked about this season, just wasn't there for me.
Mm-hmm.
But these last 2 episodes reminded me why I really fell for this show to begin with, because just so did you see the baby? Or I guess if you missed the last 15 minutes, you probably missed a couple pieces. But I mean, I think for the first half of the episode, let's just talk about Vic. Let's just start with Vic, because I think that was one of the things that I felt Vic and Kay's journey, this as they have gone through their in subconscious patrol to now evil patrol this episode, the consequences of the changes that they've made with this second chance.
Yeah. No, I really like that part of it. I liked when everyone was picking on Vic because they're just, why are you here?
Yeah.
Dude, you like, this is for special people, and now you're just ordinary.
Yeah.
And Vic's like, no, well, I still live here, not really fully understanding what he has given up.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you that moment when Kay asked if he could record her and interview her like Nigel did, was really good, and it does show growth. I think early on that's what we were really angry about, because we're just like, these characters just seem to keep running in the same circle over and over again. Yeah. The problems from the first season continue. But ever since Subconscious Control, you can see that no, it's all part of the journey. Now, that being said, can Larry just become positive man already? Like, I'm really tired of this. Can he just become positive man? We get it. We get where it's going. Just make it happen already. Okay, come on, wrap it up, amigo.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like, I really wish that the first half of the season had worked for me, because I can only imagine what I would be feeling right now. But unfortunately, it didn't, and so I'm glad to see that they're able to finish strong, even though they didn't start that strong.
Yeah, because I think you're right, that was, because I think I wish they had focused. Man, I know they set up the Brotherhood of Evil. And another thing that really, again, what makes this episode work so well for me, and what really gets to the core, because I think, whenever they had the flying butts and stuff from, like, I guess that was episode 3 or 4, and it was just like, I felt it was just they were just trying too hard to keep to have the zaniness, and it didn't feel organic. It just felt forced. Like we had to do these gags just because that's what's become expected of this show. What's been great about Subconscious Patrol and then Evil Patrol is the weirdness. It just, and the absurdity is it just flows. Like in this episode, Madame Rouge shows up in a retirement community with the Brain and Mullah. And they're like, no, we're, you're like 40 years or 60 years too late. We're past trying to kill Nels Calder. We're happy being retired. And it was just like, I just looked at that moment. I just literally laughed out loud whenever she was like speaking to the call box to try to get, for Laura DeMille to get into the retirement community. And Mullah was like, don't know who you are,
and I think that's the intention of this season and why it's been so different, because they didn't have a candle maker this season. Everyone in their own way, these characters, they're so freaking flawed that to an extent those flaws are what is the ultimate villain for these characters this season.
That's it. Yep.
And so they're not following into this trap of a villain of the week or anything, because they've had a few villains appear, but at the end of the day, the characters are really just battling themselves and trying to get over this, where Larry's feeling like, man, I was a horrible father. Look at what. And now I have this new baby. Maybe I can do this. And then everything with Cliff, like, damn, last week's episode, it still blew my mind what happened with him and what he's going through. And And even Jane, I mean, with Kay, you want Kay at the surface, right?
Right.
You should want that because Kay is the person who the personalities are supposed to help and support. But at what point that just becomes, but if Kay is able to be her, then she doesn't really need everyone else. And what does that mean to all the other identities? So it's very complex.
Yeah.
So, and the Rita stuff still doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
But I also, another thing I noticed in this episode too is that scene in the living room when they were picking on Vic, when they pick on Larry, like, I think we haven't had as many group interactions.
Yes.
There's been a lot of time separated.
Yes.
And we've said this before. When they're separated, the episodes don't work as well as when they're either paired up or all together because they have such great chemistry.
They do. Yeah. That I'm so glad you brought that point up because that's the other thing I think that's been lacking. And I know they tried to replicate that with Rita when she was with the sisterhood of Dada. But I again, it was sort of like, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, in the time, and again, time travel is one of those things. Telling a good time traveling story is always difficult. And you're dropping these, you're dropping these other people in, and maybe in hindsight, maybe they should have focused on the Brotherhood of Evil more, as far as instead of waiting till like the 8th and 9th episode, as far as what Laura DeMille was actually about and why she had this vendetta against Niles.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that I think is missing too is the chief. I mean, I didn't realize how much Timothy Dalton sort of was the glue that pulled all this stuff together until his absence definitely has been felt this season.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. And our website is www.cnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.